Today I'm reviewing an air purifier that's been requested a ton on here. This is the Shark NeverChange HP150 in the UK, or known as the HP152 in the US. And it's different, not just due to its odor neutralizer technology or its peculiar design with the pre-filters at each side. This air purifier from Shark is different because of its massive promise of a filter that lasts 5 years. Yes, you heard that right, 5 years. But does it actually clean the air, and how true are these promises? Let's unpack whether the Shark NeverChange is a hidden gem or just a very expensive paperweight. Everything I will share with you today is based on my experience and first-hand data. Our test process if you want to know more. For those who don't want to listen to my whole review of the Shark NeverChange, come on guys, here are the 4 things I like and the 4 things I don't. Firstly, what I really like, it comes with 2 removable pre-filters, which is something rare for a cylindrical air purifier. Promising a 5-year filter lifespan, this model has the lowest running costs on the market. It's energy efficient and will only add $28 to your electricity bill each year. It comes with an onboard laser sensor that is quick to react to pollutants in the air and has more accurate readings compared to the standard optical sensors you'll find in most air purifiers. What I don't like, it has weak KDAR and took much longer to complete our air cleaning test than cheaper and older models like the Levoit Core 300. Its carbon filter won't be good enough for dealing with odors and VOCs, as it only comes with 90 grams of carbon, which is a tiny amount compared to the 250 grams you get with models in the same price range. It comes with a fragrance cartridge to help mask odors, but I had to switch it off as it gave me a headache after a few minutes. It doesn't come with app connectivity, which is something unusual for air purifiers selling in the $250 range. Now this is our first Shark air purifier review here on YouTube, so if you want to see us test other Shark air purifiers, or you think we should just leave it here, then please drop us a comment below and remember to subscribe and like if you like our content. Okay, let's jump into the full review. My first step when evaluating an air purifier is to find KDAR figures that show whether the price matches the potential air cleaning power. KDAR is short for clean air delivery rate, and it's a good way to quickly get an idea of how powerful an air purifier is. The good news is that Shark has sent the NeverChange, or HP152, 150 in the UK for a KDAR test in April 2024. The bad news is that according to this report, the NeverChange has a dust KDAR of 105 CFM, which is what we see from smaller and cheaper air purifiers like the Levoit Core 200S. This leads to a cost per KDAR that is much higher than what you'll get from other similar priced air purifiers on the market today, many of which are more powerful than the Shark NeverChange. I've conducted my own particle removal test and estimated a PM1 KDAR at different speeds. So I will share in just a minute whether there is a speed at which the NeverChange 5 HP152 outperforms others, but before we get there, let's talk about design. In this video, I'm reviewing the mid-size NeverChange, which I bought here in the UK. Now there are 3 different sizes in this model, and in the US you will find it in black instead of white. The NeverChange HP152 has a cylindrical design similar to the older Shark HP102 and it has roughly the same size too. You will notice right away that this new Shark device has a more futuristic vibe thanks to its removable pre-filters, which we'll get to in a minute. At the front of the device, you'll find an LED screen that displays air quality readings as a percentage of clean air, which could be confusing to those who are used to seeing PM figures on the screen. On display, you also get a color-coded LED ring that changes from blue to yellow to red, going from good to fair to poor air quality. If you want to see real-time PM readings from the sensor, you can press the Air Info button at the top of the device, and you will get levels of PM1, PM2.5, and PM10 on the screen instead of the clean air percentage as you see as default. These readings are very accurate, and it makes sense as Shark confirmed that the NeverChange uses a laser sensor, which is the most accurate type of air quality sensor you can get in an air purifier. 2 pros of the laser sensor are that 1, it doesn't need to be cleaned regularly as opposed to optical sensors, and 2, it's very quick to react to pollutants in the air, making the auto mode more responsive. There is no app support for the Shark NeverChange, but you do get a lot of buttons on the control panel. Starting at the top clockwise, you get the information button we talked about a minute ago, then a timer button, a light button to adjust the brightness of the screen, the filter replacement indicator, and lastly the child lock button. Underneath these buttons you will find an auto mode button between 2 arrows that you can use to adjust the fan speed manually. At the very bottom of the control panel you will get the power button. To access the cylindrical HEPA filter inside the NeverChange, you need to tip the device on its head and turn the filter door counterclockwise to unlock it, so you can remove it to expose the filters. Now, the thing I really like about the Shark NeverChange is the use of removable pre-filters you can access without having to remove the filter inside the device. This is a big improvement over other cylindrical air purifiers, as they usually attach the pre-filter to the main filter and you need to remove the whole thing in order to vacuum and clean the pre-filter, which ends up just spreading dust and pollutants everywhere. With Shark's innovative design, you can still benefit from a removable pre-filter and have cylindrical design. This means that you can just remove the pre-filter on each side of the device to vacuum it and clean it as necessary, without needing to access the HEPA filter inside. Another cool thing is that when the pre-filters need maintenance, the front will display to show you with a pulsing red ring with the warning check dust filters, to let you know it's time to clean the pre-filters. By the way, the cylindrical filter inside also contains 90 plus or minus 10 grams of carbon for dealing with gases and odors. But this amount of carbon is relatively low compared to other models on the market. Curiously, even the larger NeverChange HP300 and the smaller HP072 also come with the same amount of carbon in their filters. By the way, I compared the filter of the HP152 to the one in the older Shark HP102 and found that it has the same dimensions, although it does weigh less, so I can assume it uses less carbon. This is good news for owners of the old Shark air purifier, as OEM filters are harder to find for the HP102, so you could use the newer filters from the Shark HP152, as they do fit. Moving on, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The big marketing claim by Shark for the NeverChange is that the filters only need to be changed every 5 years compared to the 6 to 12 months you see with other brands. This is backed by a lab test by Shark based on 12 hours of usage, where they saw a 50% decline in 5 years. Now, I will need to use my Shark NeverChange for 5 years to see if this matches up in real life, but I do worry about the carbon element being used up way earlier than this, especially considering it's such a small amount of carbon. Most carbon filters generally only last 6 months and will start to smell at this point. As the carbon has been bonded with the HEPA filter, this would mean that you would have to replace the whole thing, unless you don't mind having a smelly filter in your air purifier. But I will put this to the test over the next 12 months by using this device in our kitchen, and I'll make sure to update our written review of the Shark NeverChange on housefresh.com with more info about what happened long term. The NeverChange also comes with an odor neutralizer function in the form of a scented cartridge that sits next to the control panel at the top. This is the same odor neutralizer that Shark uses for its vacuum cleaners. Unfortunately, the smell gave me a headache, so I had to switch the odor dial off. I'm sharing this as I know there might be others who are like me or are highly sensitive to chemicals in the air, so it's something you need to be aware of. Okay, let's jump into the HouseFresh performance test. First, we tested the Shark NeverChange HP152 running at top speed. According to our Purple Air Zen sensor, the Shark NeverChange at max speed needed 68 minutes to clear our 728 cubic feet test room of all PM1 particles. Based on this result, we estimate a PM1 KDAR of 88 CFM, which matches to the smoke KDAR figure from AHAM and the average 89 CFM that Shark shared with me when I reached out for comment. Shark explained variations occur due to different testing labs, equipment and calculations. To account for these potential variations, Shark conservatively declares a slightly smaller coverage area, explaining the minor difference between the Energy Star KDAR and our stated coverage. When comparing these particle removal results with other air purifiers in the same price range, it becomes evident that the NeverChange is underpowered. But these results are based on our test at top speed, and most people are unlikely to use an air purifier at top speed all the time because they can get pretty noisy. And this brings us neatly to our sound test. We measured how much sound the Shark NeverChange HP152 generates at each fan speed. Be aware that our background noise in our basement is around 35 decibels, so speed 1 will likely be quieter if you could measure it in a silent room, but sound is subjective, so please have a listen for yourself. Reaching 59.1 decibels at top speed, the Shark NeverChange is a little louder than the Levoit Vital 200S, but is a lot quieter than the Win X5510. Looking at the noise levels at every fan speed, I isolated speed 2 as the highest fan speed that generates less than 45 decibels of noise. I then retested the particle removal speed of the NeverChange running at speed 2, and it took 110 minutes, or 1 hour and 50 minutes to remove all PM1 pollutants in our test room. With this result, we estimate a PM1 KDAR at this speed of 52 CFM, which takes into account the natural ventilation inside our test room. The Shark NeverChange is much slower at cleaning the air compared to other similar priced air purifiers on the market today. The NeverChange was even outperformed by the much cheaper and much older Levoit Core 300 running at speed 2. But let's look at energy consumption to see if the Shark NeverChange has any other redeeming qualities. We used our energy meter to measure how much energy the Shark NeverChange pulls at each fan speed and on standby. If you had to leave your Shark NeverChange running 24/7 at top speed for 1 year, it would pull 227.8 kilowatt hours and cost $28.88, assuming an average US electricity price of 0.1268 kilowatt hours. This is impressive level of energy efficiency. So when it comes to energy consumption, the NeverChange has the lowest yearly electricity costs of all the devices we benchmarked it against. Even the PC-powered AirFanta 3 Pro will be nearly $20 more expensive to run each year in terms of energy usage. Points for the Shark there. But let's look at the other main factor that affects yearly running costs, the filter replacements. According to Shark, you only need to change the filters for the NeverChange 5 series every 5 years. OEM filters for the Shark HP152 cost $59.99, and as you need to replace them every 5 years, the yearly cost comes down to $11.99. This figure paired with the low energy consumption means that the NeverChange has the cheapest yearly maintenance costs we have seen. When compared to other similar priced air purifiers, the Shark NeverChange stands out with its low running costs thanks to its long filter lifespan and low energy costs. It has even lower costs than the Clean Air Kit's luggable XL7, which uses HVAC filters and super energy efficient PC fans. So is the Shark NeverChange HP152 worth it? Well, I can now totally understand why there's been so many people asking me to review this air purifier. Finally, we have a cylindrical air purifier with a removable pre-filter. Plus, the 5-year filter lifespan is unique in air purifiers of this size and price and leads to running costs that are even lower than those that you build yourself. The big issue with this air purifier is its lack of air cleaning power for the $250 price tag. With its marketed KDAR of 89 CFM, it can only be used in spaces up to 133 square feet or 12 square meters if you want 5 air changes per hour. Now, when running on its quieter fan speeds, this drops to 78 square feet or 7 square meters, which is less than the average bedroom in the US and the UK. I personally dislike the use of a fragrance to mask odors over a good amount of activated carbon to remove them from the air. The odor neutralizer gave me a light headache, but you might not mind it and it could be a plus. You will find a lot of mid-sized air purifiers with a list price of $249.99 that are twice as powerful as the Shark NeverChange HP152, and many of them will come with a lot more carbon in their filters and even access to features like app support. While there might be savings to be made in the long term, if you're concerned about long-term costs, I suggest you look into generic filters for older models like the Kowei AP1512HH that go as low as $34.99 for a pack of 3 particle-only filters that will last you 3 years when replacing every 12 months. Also, even though we don't currently test for odors and VOC removal, the amount of carbon in the Shark NeverChange series is just too small to make a real difference. So I don't recommend this model for anyone looking for an air purifier to help with serious odors and VOCs. Overall, I think that the Shark NeverChange is just too underpowered for the price, and would recommend that most people look at alternative models that will offer more value for money. Speaking of which, I paid for the Shark NeverChange 5 with my own money. I spent £149 or $200 US from Amazon.co.uk during the last Black Friday sales. If you like this review and want to support the work we do at House Fresh, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And if you do decide to buy the Shark NeverChange after all, please use the links in the description. As always, let me know if you have any comments about this particular unit, and I will see you all in the next video. Jabba, jabba,